Hey guys, my name's Skylar. I'm 25 and I tried to change somebody else's body, but I ended up changing my own. Before the incident, my life couldn't have been going more smoothly. I had the best job in the world, an interior decorator. I loved meeting people, getting to know their styles, and perfecting their home image. I'm used to perfecting my image personally, and so turning pro came pretty naturally to me. And my company was insanely successful. My clients loved the way I changed their looks and their lives. I guess I got a little carried away with this idea because I tried to change everyone's look, including my boyfriend's, which is kind of what started this mess. Elijah was such an amazing guy in so many ways. He was pretty much brilliant. He was a chemist that worked at this research lab, and he did well for himself. Most importantly, he was kind and hilarious. And committed. That's always important in a relationship. But I did have a couple little baby issues about Elijah. Number one, his dress. He kind of had that thrift store thing going for him, which could be easily remedied. And number two, his body. I know. I'm not trying to be mean. Elijah was really cute, but he was a little skinny and kinda short. If I'm being honest, it only bothered me when we'd take selfies together. I wanted him to look bigger than me, and I figured if maybe he worked out a little bit, he might buff up and we would look amazing together. When I was studying interior design, I came across this quote by this famous interior designer. "I'm going to make everything around me beautiful, and that will be my life." My heart completely ran away with this idea, and it inspired great work ethic in my professional life. But I took it into my personal life. I wanted Elijah and I to be the most beautiful couple, and I dreamed about moving in together and designing our home and our lives. So I started dropping hints about working out to Elijah and pointing out that it would be super hot if he got buff. Elijah kind of laughed off the idea, but I didn't want to give up on it. I mean, I did a lot to keep up with my appearances and maintain my looks. The least Elijah could do was try on a new shirt or work out some. It was for both of us. So, for his birthday, I got him a gym membership and a set of weights. He thanked me, but seemed disappointed. When I asked what was wrong, he said it seemed like the gift came with a lot of work. I told him that it would be worth it and encouraged him to get in shape. One evening at dinner, Elijah told me that he started a workout routine, and twice a week he would be at the gym. I was so thrilled, and I wanted to surprise him. We had each other's spare keys for emergencies, and I thought I would use it for a little surprise to encourage his workout routine and muscle growth. One night, when he said he was going to be at the gym, I planned to sneak over and cook him a protein-rich dinner. But when I arrived, I saw something that made me suspect that Elijah wasn't going to the gym, and he was hiding something. I wasn't really noticing a lot of muscle gain. Elijah was just as skinny as always. Maybe muscle growth took some time, but boy was I wrong, because one morning, my life flipped upside down. I made a pot of coffee for Elijah, who was running late for work. Well, I had a cup myself, and not long after, I began to feel ill. It started in my stomach, but then I felt dizzy. I had to sit down. My heart was racing, my vision was getting blurry. I was about to call Elijah for help, but my arms were shaking, and then my hand seized up on me. Then, bam! A huge bicep popped out of my arm, and then my left. I felt like Popeye after he had eaten spinach. But it didn't stop in my arms. Extreme muscle growth was transforming my body completely. I could barely recognize myself, and I felt this pulsing strength with every movement. The illness was gone, but I was left with these monster muscles. I was terrified. This was not the image I was going for. I had a meeting with a potential client, and I couldn't show up looking like this. But I was already running late, and I had nothing to wear. I had to show up in an outfit that didn't quite fit my muscular frame. And when I shook this guy's hand, my arms ripped out of the sleeves, and the guy was confused. I apologized and tried to cover, but I sounded like a crazy person, saying that I accidentally worked out too much last night. I was so frazzled that I blew my pitch, and the guy said he'd get back to me and cut the meeting short. I was alone in the restaurant, feeling like a fool. I hated failure, but this time I felt like I had an excuse. I mean, look at these muscles and my ripped up clothes. I wouldn't hire me either. And then I sounded so crazy telling him I accidentally worked out. Who accidentally works out? And just then, I thought about Elijah and thought maybe he could help me. When I texted him, he said he was going to the gym after work. But when I went by the gym that night, he wasn't there. I went to his house thinking maybe he'd be there, but he wasn't. I realized then that he was up to something, and I got the hunch it had something to do with my muscles. So I went by the research lab that Elijah worked at, and I saw him outside his office. He was working on some sort of liquid and mixing potions like a mad scientist. I wasn't quite sure what he was doing. He sure wasn't working out. Meanwhile, I was the one stuck with the giant muscles. Everywhere I went now, people were judging my muscles, and one of my most pretentious clients told me to my face that he thought my look was awful and that I was a walking eyesore. I felt terrible being judged and hated people telling me what was best for my body. They didn't know what I was going through or what was happening. Heck, I barely knew. And I remembered how Elijah protested about getting buff, saying he wasn't really much of a muscle guy. Still, I encouraged him, saying that he could be. I thought I was being helpful, but maybe I was being pushy. And then I figured it out. I grew the muscles after I drank Elijah's coffee. And Elijah was up all night at the lab cooking up some kind of weird brew. What if Elijah was poisoning me to gain big muscles, to get back at me? He was always a bit of a prankster, that Elijah, and this seemed like just the kind of way he'd make his point. But it was a good one. After living for a full day with huge muscle growth, I heard plenty of comments, and some just plain rude. Having muscles began to bother me less than the judgment I got from others. My body simply wasn't anybody else's business. And it wasn't Elijah's either. I decided that the only way to take back control of my body was to confront Elijah. I made plans with him to meet up downtown, and when I got to the restaurant, I texted him a picture of myself so he could see what he'd done to my body. Not long after I snapped my selfie, I heard this car crash. Then people started gathering around. I walked over a couple blocks, and sure enough, I saw enough to induce what happened. Elijah's phone was in the street next to his car, which was smashed in the front. He was arguing with some stranger who was standing next to another busted-up car. This one had damage to its back bumper. There were skid marks behind Elijah's car, and I think my muscle selfie surprised Elijah so much that he lost control of his car. That goes to show you should never text and drive. Once they traded information and got their cars out of the street, Elijah found me back at the restaurant. But I didn't give him a second to talk. I yelled at him about my big muscle body and told him it wasn't funny. But Elijah explained that it wasn't a prank, it was a mistake. Elijah admitted that he was working on a formula to create massive muscle growth with minimal exercise. He tried working out, but said he was lazy and thought he could think his way to extreme muscle growth to make me happy. He said he thought he discovered the right formula, and he put some in his coffee to try it out. He thought it failed, but seeing me with all my muscles made him realize the mistake. He took the wrong coffee when he was running late the other morning, and I drank the muscle coffee instead of him. At first, I was angry at Elijah for messing around with muscle growth instead of working out the natural way. But then I realized that he would have never messed with it to begin with if it hadn't been for me and my pressure. The truth is, I love bringing visual beauty to the world. But I didn't think about how my drive for a perfect image could hurt myself or others around me. I should have accepted Elijah for how he is, instead of trying to redecorate him for looks. There's enough superficiality in the world, and Elijah and I both apologized to each other for our blunders. Sometimes wisdom can be hard in a world that's often so superficial. There's nothing wrong with a little beauty and aesthetics, but I stood face to face with a really important lesson. Beauty is only skin deep, and it's what's on the inside that counts. Elijah made a muscle atrophy formula to combat my huge muscle growth, and I made it back to my size. But it was funny because I missed having so much strength that I decided I would work out myself and build a little natural muscle growth. After all, you can't let other people determine what you should do with your body. It's yours for a reason. Have you ever wanted a new look? Tell us about it in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more hidden wisdom stories. Remember, when you share our stories, you're sharing wisdom.